Okay, hello and welcome to another sales chat brought to you by SalesPOP Online Sales Magazine and Pipeliner CRM. Today, I am delighted to be joined by Caryn Kopp, who is in a chilly New Jersey today. How are you doing, Caryn?
I'm doing good. Keep them warm.
My name is John Golden. I'm also joined by my colleague, Martha Neumeister, who is in maybe a little chillier Vienna today. Bit of snow outside, Martha?
Yeah, a lot of.
And I'm here in San Diego, which is also a little chilly, but I'm not going to say that because people will get mad at me because, let's face it, we don't get that much chilly weather around here.
That's not fair.
I know it's not. Okay, so for those of you not familiar with Sales Chat, this is a live 30-minute broadcast with one expert, 3 questions, and you can also join in on Twitter with the hashtag Sales Chat. So hashtag Sales Chats. If you have any comments, you want to answer the questions yourself, you want to get involved, even ask questions that Martha will give to us. We'll answer them during the broadcast. Okay, well, as I said, I'm joined by Caryn Kopp today, and Caryn is of Kopp Consulting, and her title there is Chief Door Opener, because Caryn's all about opening doors, right, Caryn?
Right, that's right. Got to get them open.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. So let's start off with the very baseline fundamentals. So what does door opening really mean, and why is it so essential to sales success?
Right. So great question, because in my opinion, not enough people think about this question, and then they find themselves with an empty pipeline and they're pretty sad about it later on. So door opening is very important for almost every business out there, especially, of course, the B2B. If you're looking to get in big doors for enterprise sales, it's absolutely positively a must, but in most other businesses as well. And what door opening means is that you're opening up new relationships with people you didn't know before to discuss the opportunity of working together. And it's not necessarily about working your relationships, although you can do that to find new relationships, but it's just the art and the science of opening up new relationships with new people so that you have opportunities that you didn't have before. It's all about feeding the top of the funnel, but the right way.
Right. Because let's face it, a lot of people get very comfortable with the contacts that they have, right? Yep. And even inside an organization, right, you know, they will have this great contact, and maybe it's an enterprise, a global organization, and there's so many places they can do, but they kind of cling to that one contact, right?
Right. Well, it's very comfortable to do that. And look, relationships are important. Let's not say that they're not. They are very important. But sometimes people have relationships with prospects who aren't the right prospects, and they'll work those relationships, but that means they're not necessarily getting to the high level places they need to get to in order to really have a solid method for getting in the door. So it also happens in hiring. Sometimes when the business leaders go out to hire, they hire somebody with a really wonderful Rolodex, and it's filled with potential relationships, but the relationships with these companies are not necessarily at the right levels. And the business leaders don't find that out for usually about 6 months, as the salesperson goes and talks to the people that he or she knows, and then opens up doors that don't necessarily lead the business to the promised land.
Yeah, absolutely. And just for those tuning in who may be slightly younger than us, the Rolodex, you can find that in your local museum. It's the equivalent of your contact list in your phone. But back in the day, we had to actually take business cards and put them into little cardboard folders, and actually the Rolodex spun around. It was quite an amazing invention of its time. Yes. But to your point, Caryn, that's a really good point that I just want to dwell on for a moment. Is we do tend to hire in sales, like, you know, one of the biggest questions we ask is, you know, what's your network like, and can you bring us into your network? And you're correct, we don't spend enough time actually investigating what level that network is at and whether they're the right profile of people. We just think, oh, you've got contacts in all these different companies, great, you can bring us in.
Right. And what's really important about that is sometimes those contacts are at, let's say, a middle level when you might really need the highest level. And by working the middle level, you actually prevent yourself from getting to the higher level. You'd probably be more successful if you just went in and approached the higher level directly, as opposed to the middle level first. So it's really important for the business leaders to ask that secondary question. Not only do you have the right contacts, or Rolodex for those dinosaurs on the call, all, but but what level are these people at? What departments, what divisions are they in? Maybe ask for a couple of those names and check them yourself and see if those people are really the people that you want to meet. If they are, great, make the hire. If not, then what you're probably going to want to know is, can this person navigate from the contact to the correct person, or does this person have the skills to open the door with somebody that he or she does not know?
So what are some of the basic skills that you need to be able to open a door with somebody that you don't know, somebody that's maybe at a higher level, maybe even somebody in an organization where you have a mid-range or mid-level contact? What are some of the skills you need in order to be able to do that?
Right. So before I get to skills, I'm going
Mhm.
to talk about just one piece that's so important before the skills even take over. It's desire. Not
Mhm.
everybody has the desire to do this job. There are people I know who are crackerjack at opening doors, but they'd really rather put a stick in their eye than do this job. And that doesn't necessarily come out on the interview, because if you say that, you might not get a job. But right, so
Chances are.
that's another thing that a business leader will find out the further down the road. So it really has to do with desire. And even the salespeople need to be very honest with themselves about how willing they are to do this job. Because if they're willing and they have the curiosity about people in general, they like to learn about people in general, that's great. All of that is well played. But if they don't, they just want to work their contacts, or they just want to close sales, but they don't really want to open new relationships, it's something to really be honest with yourself about, because it can be really boring and tedious if you don't truly love this job. But let's say you love this job.
Well,
Go ahead.
let me just ask you there, right? So, how do you? I mean, number one, how do you uncover if somebody has that skill set or that desire? Sorry, the desire. How do you uncover if somebody has the desire, and how do you know? Maybe even if yourself, ask yourself if you have the desire to do that.
Well, I'll answer the second question first. Like, how do you know it about yourself? Like, if you sit down when you're doing your sales and you're doing the prospecting, and you can't wait to roll up your sleeves, and you're thinking, oh, what are all my little prospect friends doing today? I can't wait to talk to this one. I can't wait to talk to that one. You probably really like this part of the sales process. But if this process, it's really hard to sit yourself down and write the emails and make the phone calls, but you just love going out on those meetings, and you can't wait to have 5 people in a room, and you're talking like meeting number 2, meeting number 3, and talking about what the deal looks like, that you may be a different kind of seller, right? It doesn't mean that somebody who's great at the close, who is not so great at the open, can't do the open. They certainly can, but it's harder for them if they don't have the desire. A lot of times we recommend to the business leader to think about separating these two aspects of the sales process, and have one person or a team of people, the right people, opening the doors, feeding the exact right meetings to the people who go on the meetings, and close them from there. So that's one way to know if you yourself might be the right person for that job. Your first question was, how does the business leader know? Well, we recommend certain interview questions and a certain kind of job description be written. So let's say a business leader is looking for someone to open doors. That's going to be a big part of the job. Just put it right there in the job description. No prior relationships will be handed to you. Must develop an entire territory from scratch. People who don't like this part of the sales process will run from a job description like that. If they're still applying after that, that's great. Now it's time to ask some questions. If you're interviewing some senior level people who have experience doing this, just ask them, when you had to develop a territory from scratch, what did you do? First, second, third, what were the challenges that you encountered? How did you overcome them? So just those kinds of interview questions, you'll have a really good feel for what this person actually did. If he or she didn't do any of this, you're going to hear that too. One point is that it's really important to know what the answers are. So if you have, let's say, an HR person asking the question, but that person has never done the job, how is he or she supposed to evaluate the answer? So we like to have our door openers interview other door openers, because that way, aside from fit and skill, we can interview for BS also.
Which is always good in an interview, to have the BS detector working at full throttle.
It helps.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit then about the skills that are required in order to be a good door opener and how you spot those skills.
Right. So listening is huge. You have to be able, because door opening happens quickly, especially if you're on the phone with somebody, or even sometimes in an email back and forth. You have to be able to pivot in a split second with the conversation. So you have to be in that moment. It takes a ton of focus to be a great door opener. So there are those two things. I would say the ability to speak very succinctly. So if you have maybe 6 sentences, how can you get the same intent in one sentence? And that's not always easy. And sometimes companies will really do themselves a favor if they provide some of this sales messaging to their employees before they start the door opening process, and then test them on their proficiency. So the ability to be succinct, methodical, is a big deal. We just had a dinner last night with some of our door openers in New York City, and we were talking about what makes us so successful, and methodical was a big word that came up. So there's, of course, the strategy of who you're going to approach and the priority with which you're going to approach them, but then to be so methodical that you wouldn't skip over them next week or the week after that. You keep that continuity going. Those are just a few. I can go on.
Yeah, no, it's good. I'm just laughing to myself about thinking about you sitting with dinner with all the door openers. Was everybody trying to get contact? Everybody trying to get everybody else to introduce them to people?
We try to be creative.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk. You touched on a subject there, messaging, right? And I know messaging is core to your whole strategy around door opening. So, talk a little bit about the role of messaging in door opening.
Right. Well, it's a critical piece of getting in the door, because what we've learned is that when you say the right thing to the right person, the doors open. When you say the wrong thing to the right person, the doors stay closed. So the messaging is so critical. And think about yourself. Like, I don't know what your calendar looks like, but I can tell you what mine looks like. It's completely full. It's completely full for the next month. If you look at my calendar, you would just cry, because I do every week. And I come in and I try to figure out, who am I going to knock off my calendar this week? So if somebody were to contact me as a CEO of my company and they want to sell something to me, or that have me consider something new, I would quite fairly say I have no time on my calendar.
Sure.
But if that person said something to me that was so relevant, so compelling, that would make my life better, I would knock 3 people off my calendar and make room for that person. And that's what messaging is about. So it's all about, what do you say in just a very few couple of words, a couple of sentences, that will make such an impact to somebody you don't know, that will make that person say, I didn't think about it like that. I need to have this meeting, and I'm not going to put it off. That's messaging.
So give me an example. What would a message that would make you clear 3 people off like that? What kind of message would get you? And
So
I'm not inviting people to start selling to you. I just out of interest.
Yeah, and I was going to give my phone number out of here. Right. So it's really something that's going to make my life better. Like, so for example, most people when they think about messaging, they think about pain. And pain is certainly a part of messaging. You can absolutely go there. But what most people don't think about is opportunity. With messaging. So it's not everybody is in pain when you reach them, when you contact them. Not everybody knows that they're in pain, even if they are in pain, but they certainly know if there's something better out there that they weren't aware of that will make their lives better, they're going to want to hear about that, and they're not going to want to put it off. So that's what I'm talking about, is to figure out what that is for your product, for your service. Why should someone else make room for you? When I ask that question to people I meet in my seminars, and they'll give me an answer like, oh, we give good customer service. And I'll say, well, don't your competitors say that they give good customer service, whether they do or don't? So that's not going to have somebody clear time on the calendar. So now tell me something that's so compelling that somebody would not put off a meeting with you. That's what I'm talking about.
Right. And let's be honest, I mean, we don't get those messages that often, right? in
Right.
fairness.
That's why there's lots of room for opportunity. People say that opening doesn't work. There's all sorts of things out there online. Oh, cold calling doesn't work. Well, you know what? It does. We have owned this business for 20 years, and if you do it right, it does work. If you do it wrong, it doesn't work. That I will totally agree with.
Okay, so so let's talk about overcoming difficult prospect objections. Okay, so maybe you get them to listen to you for a moment, but then how do you take it from there, and how do you overcome the inevitable objections?
So the very first piece of overcoming an objection is preparation. And most people are not prepared to overcome objections. And so I always recommend everybody has an objection manual for their company. And that is the identification of every objection that your sellers are going to face, from the door opening phase to the meetings to the proposal to the closed sale, with the right answers associated with that. Because if you know what the right answers are, you face an objection, you can deliver the answer, and delivery is an important piece, and then you can just ask for the next step. But most people are not prepared. So I like to say there are 3 P's associated with objections. It's pre-think, prepare, and practice. If you can pre-think what the objections are, you can very likely prepare answers that work. But just having those answers is not enough. You need to practice them so that when you are faced with them, you can answer them very conversationally. One other bonus point about objections is that if you can gather information from your sales team and find out what objections they're facing most often, sometimes you could take a look at what those objections are and what the right answers are, and take pieces of that messaging and put it into your initial upfront messaging and remove the objection from the table in the first place. And I highly recommend that because it makes the entire process of getting in the door much shorter.
Yeah, it does say that the best way of overcoming objections is for those objections not to come up, right? And so for you to deal with
Much
them,
better.
to deal with them earlier in the sales process, to weave it in, or when you see the conversation going in that direction, weave it in there. But so again, a lot of what you're saying here, I think from the beginning, it's all about planning and preparation, isn't it? And do you think that enough organizations and salespeople really invest enough time in the planning and preparation? Because everybody always seems to be so frenetic, and it's, get out there. And as you say, my calendar's full. What space in your calendar is put aside for preparation?
Right. Well, when we're starting up a door opener program, there's usually 30 to 40 hours for any one program that is spent on target identification, sales message development, answers for objections, the initial voicemail email vignettes, because you can't leave the same voicemail twice for the same person. So you have to build that conversation over time. So that piece is already put together. The prospect list is a big portion of this. You want to make sure you have the right contact names. You want to make sure you have the phone numbers, email addresses, so you're not spending your process time, your live time, on actually finding the contact information. So for us, all those pieces are done up front ahead of time. And then we test our door openers on their messaging proficiency so that we're not practicing on our clients' most important prospects. And that's another piece of it too. But as I've talked to thousands of different companies, it's very rare that companies have actually done all this thinking ahead of time, and that they test their sellers' proficiency before they launch. More often than not, they're given a script, if there even is one, but life doesn't happen according to a script. That's not real. But they are given just a script, and they might be given a prospect list, or maybe just a couple of parameters, sometimes yes, sometimes no. And then they're like, okay, I want you to get this number of calls, this number of proposals, this number of close ups. But nobody ever bothers to take a look at whether there are incredible inefficiencies in this process because the message isn't right. The target could have been more refined, right? But those who spend time on the strategy before the execution, they will win.
So how do you? So say you've done pretty much all of that, and you start your door opening campaign. I mean, obviously, in the real world, things don't happen immediately, right? I mean, it takes
Right.
work. So how do you help door openers stay motivated and confident, during the initial phases when, let's face it, the doors are probably not opening immediately. So how do you keep them in the game and motivated?
So that's a hiring issue,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you have people who love this job, they know it takes time. When we first start up a new program, we don't expect a slew of meetings in week one, especially when people come to us to get in the high level doors, C-suite, big companies, SVP, VP, director level. Those, they're not answering the phone right away, although wouldn't that be nice?
Wouldn't
And
it?
they don't, yeah, and if they answer the phone right away, they don't say, oh yeah, I hate my current vendor, I've got $1 million need, can you come tomorrow? That just doesn't happen. So you have to get in there, roll up your sleeves and do the work. But our people know that, because that's what door opening is. And they choose this lifestyle. They want to do this work. And so we don't have the issue of having to sit here and give somebody a pep talk and motivate them. And I'll tell you one thing, if we did, they don't belong here. It would be the wrong fit for a job.
So what are some of the leading indicators that you see when somebody starts and you go, this person's going to be successful? What are some of the indicators?
Live conversations. They're able to get more people on the phone than other people. They're able to navigate internally, whether it's with the assistant or they're calling at different times of day, but they're able to get more live conversations. Other things. I'm not looking for quantity of calls. I'm looking for quality of touch points. I want to see an email that's been personalized, like based on some research that somebody has done. Let's say the decision maker published a white paper or recently won an award, or something specific is happening in the industry or the company. Well, a reach out should never occur before that kind of research is done. And then within the body of the messaging that's been created, you can then personalize it to the individual. That's what works. So when we see door openers doing that, and then of course it's a voicemail email combination, it's building a relationship with the assistant, then the results follow. When we see programs that might lag in success, it's because that level of personalization is not happening.
Right.
And, or let's say somebody's leaving the same message, although that should never happen in my company, but let's say it did, that would be something that would not lead to success.
So what is, as we're reaching the end here, what is one piece of advice you would give to people in 2018 to do differently maybe than they did in 2017?
Just one?
Yeah. Apart from hire you to do their door opening.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing, is make sure that you're considering an outside resource like Kopp Door Opening to help you out. But I guess the one thing that I would suggest to everybody is just to remember that your prospects are people. They are people. They go to work for a reason, and it's not necessarily to talk to you. They go to work for a reason, and if you think about them as people and you're respectful, but you have something important to say to them that will help them out, like think about that with every touch point, every email, every phone call. What are you going to do to help your prospect today? And if you were your prospect, would you give you a shot? Would you give you a meeting if you were a prospect? Because if the answer is no, then you need to refine your target list. You need to refine your message. You need to refine the way you're reaching out. But these people are people, and they just need help. They do. They need to buy things. They need help. And we're here to make that happen, for sure.
Yeah, no, I love that idea. I like that piece of advice about people, because I think sometimes, I mean, we're all guilty of it. We come to work and then we forget that we're consumers, that we're buyers, and then we start behaving completely differently. And you just go, hold on a second, how would I react to this? Yeah. I mean, we see this in customer service all the time, don't we? And we know the person at the other end who's giving us crappy customer service is probably the person who hates getting crappy customer service.
Right. And those
and
people and those people who will hang in there with their prospects because their prospects are the right prospects will win in the end. Do you ever get one of those emails where somebody's breaking up with you? Oh, well, if I don't hear from you by Thursday, I'll assume you're not interested. Well, bad assumption. Maybe I'm just busy. Maybe the timing's off. But if you keep talking to me and saying things that are important, I may move. And so for those those people, they will lose the opportunity to the competitor who's willing to hang in there.
Yeah.
And that person will win in the end. So just
no, I love that too, because I got one the other day where somebody said, I'm looking for permission to close your account on my list or something. And I was like, oh, number one, I didn't even know I was on your list.
Who
And
are you?
who are you? And close away, like, close whatever you want to close, because I didn't give them permission to open it in the first place. But those are kind of odd strategies, because they don't really make a lot of sense at the end of the day. They may make sense to the person sending it, but they don't make sense to the receiver.
Right. And a lot of times people are hoping that automation will take over the need to actually develop a relationship with someone. But, here's like the ice water over everybody's head. If you're selling something big, you're to a high level person, you're going to need to develop a relationship. And that relationship includes your voice. You can't hide behind email. You can't hide behind automation, because in that case, you're going to lose sales to the competitor who's willing to do it.
Absolutely. Listen, Caryn, this has been great. In the last couple of moments, what we always like to do is ask our guest is your power tip. What do you, Caryn, do every day to set yourself up for success?
Right. Plan. It's all about planning and preparation, and then the execution will follow. I like to say that a closed sale is a simple executional detail of business development well done. So if you're planning and you're preparing, the money will follow.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Okay, Caryn, in the last few moments, please tell everybody a little bit more about yourself, your company, how they can contact you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, we are at Kopp Consulting. It's KOPP Consulting. We are best known for the door opener service, and that's where we get companies that really are serious about growth in the door with the bigger companies that they need to meet and start selling to. Most of the time, people come to us when they want to meet the prospects in the C-suite, SVP, VP, director level, to discuss large engagements. So we get our clients a seat at the table that they can't get for themselves. So people can call us if they have a sales team and they just need to get in bigger doors, or they need to get in more doors, or in the situation where somebody is a business leader who's the rainmaker and just needs some help getting in the door. And if the doors are open, they can get them closed themselves. We can help that person too. They can take a look at our website at koppconsultingusa.com. It's KOPP consultingusa.com, and they can get to us that way. We'll return their calls and emails and go from there.
All right. Thanks, Caryn. This has been a great conversation. My name is John Golden, SalesPOP Online Sales Magazine. Thanks to Caryn for joining us today. Thanks, Martha in Vienna, for running the Twitter chat. And actually, I did get, just for anyone who's listening live, this recording will be available immediately. I actually got a message from Mike Bosworth, one of our other guests and a well-known sales thought leader, who was asking about that. So yeah, Mike, this will be available on recording afterwards. So thanks everybody for joining us again. SalesPOP Online Sales Magazine, brought to you by Pipeliner CRM, and I'll see you for another sales chat very soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Ciao.